Losing John in the plane crash shattered my world, leaving me a widow with memories and unanswered questions. For years, I navigated life feeling his absence during every joyful and sorrowful moment. But then, while shopping at a local store, I caught sight of a man who looked just like him, standing with his mom. Could this really be him? After all these years? My heart raced with disbelief. I froze, staring at the man. Could this really be John? My heart kicked into overdrive with disbelief. We were in a simple store, just a part of my regular errands. Yet there he was, smiling and talking like no years had passed. I blinked, trying to ground myself. Was this a trick of my imagination? How could he be right there? In the store, I fought the urge to shout his name. Every instinct screamed that it was John. My feet moved on their own, trailing behind them as they wandered past the aisles. I tried to keep my distance, slipping into the background so they wouldn't notice me. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out everything but the thought. Could it really be him? Their laughter solidified my suspicions. It was as though the years never happened, and I was again listening to John's familiar chuckle. He reached for a box of cereal, sharing some inside joke with his mom that lifted the corners of his eyes just the way they used to. I stayed hidden, watching them pick groceries like everything was perfectly normal. As I watched, my mind swirled with questions that felt too loud to ignore. How was this possible? How could John be picking out groceries with his mom, seemingly alive and untouched by the tragedy that took him from me? There had to be some kind of explanation, but standing there, the only thing I could do was stare and try to piece it all together. Was this some kind of cruel trick created by my grief? Seeing him there brought a wave of memories crashing back. Our walks in the park, late-night talks, and morning breakfasts, all replayed in my mind. Every moment marked by his absence until now, where this strange situation made me question everything. His presence set the past into fast motion, and I couldn't catch up. In a rush to make sense of it all, I grabbed my phone. My hands shook, making it difficult to hold steady, but I had to get a picture, something to prove I wasn't going crazy. I fumbled with the phone, only to end up with a blurry shot, unsure it captured the very picture I needed to see. The photo didn't hold the answers. The scene shifted as they made their way out, heading to a gray sedan parked nearby. I quickly scrambled, my eyes zeroing in on the license plate. The numbers and letters burned in my mind, a vital detail to chase. It was something solid to hold on to in this bizarre twist of reality. I watched them slide into the car and drive away. They pulled out of the parking lot, and without thinking twice, I followed. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I maintained a safe distance, careful not to draw attention. Each turn took them down familiar streets where we used to drive together. My heart continued its wild rhythm, nearly matching every street lamp we passed. This felt unreal, yet here I was, trailing the impossible. Keeping them in sight felt like being caught in a strange dream. Every moment threatened to rip the curtain between this reality and what I'd known to be true. I watched, half expecting them to turn and see me, but hoping they wouldn't. The tension sat heavy in the air, a constant whisper that I might wake up at any minute from this dream or nightmare. As I continued to follow the car, they finally pulled up to a suburban house. It wasn't grand, but it seemed cozy and welcoming from the outside. This house looked different from the one John and I shared. I parked a few houses down to stay unnoticed. As I sat there, I couldn't help but wonder how long they'd lived there, and if it felt like home for them. I carefully parked down the street, ensuring my car blended with the others. I hesitated, debating whether I should walk up and knock on the door. Would they even recognize me after all this time? What would I even say? While my heart urged me forward, my mind held me back, telling me to stay cautious. I took a deep breath and stayed hidden for now. In the end, I opted for a more discreet approach. Sitting in my car, I decided to watch and gather more information first. They disappeared inside the house, leaving me with a million thoughts racing through my head. It felt strange, sitting there, waiting to see what would happen next. The minutes ticked by as I tried to figure out what my next move should be. Driving back home was filled with an endless stream of thoughts. Once I walked inside, the reality of the situation hit me hard. I sifted through old documents, searching for clues that I might have missed all those years ago. Even though my mind was tired, I knew there had to be something in those papers, something from the past that could offer me a hint about John's disappearance. Days turned into nights as I scoured every bank statement and old letter I could find. Each document seemed to hold a piece of a puzzle I had never completed. I couldn't ignore the possibility that something unusual might pop out. I kept telling myself I just needed to look one more time, hoping to spot that one thing that would make everything make sense. Then it happened. A strange entry in our financial records caught my eye. A transaction stood out, something I didn't remember authorizing. My heart skipped a beat as I examined the details more closely. It felt odd and out of place, especially given the timing. Questions buzzed in my mind, urging me to solve this part of the mystery. It was a glimmer of something I needed to understand. As I delved deeper into the revelation, I realized the transaction was a large withdrawal just before the crash. Why would John hide money without telling me? It didn't make sense. I knew John trusted me with everything, or at least I thought he did. The discovery added another layer to the mystery, leaving me puzzled and more determined to uncover the truth. The pieces of the puzzle seemed to inch closer together, but many questions still lingered unanswered. I felt a new sense of determination heating up inside me. There was so much I didn't understand, and this was only the beginning. I wasn't anywhere close to finished. With each piece I added, I felt closer to solving the mystery, eager to figure out what really happened. Research alone wouldn't get me far. I needed to do more. Returning to that house seemed like the next logical step. But this time I wanted to be more than a passive observer. I had to see if there was a chance to talk to them, to confirm if this really was John. My plan formed as I prepared for another visit, stronger in my resolve. To get some extra support, I reached out to an old friend who knew John well. I chose someone I trusted deeply, someone who'd be open-minded and willing to help me. Over coffee, I poured out my story, half expecting disbelief. Instead, my friend listened closely and offered to help me. Having someone by my side gave me a bit more courage to face the path ahead. When we met at a local diner, the place buzzed with chatter, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. As I shared my suspicions with her, I watched her expression carefully. With each word, I tried to gauge if she still thought I was sane. She nodded slowly, really listening. Her eyes widened a bit when I mentioned seeing John. I knew she felt the same disbelief but was willing to support me. After sharing my thoughts, she agreed with me, saying it was all too bizarre. Together, we felt a sense of relief, knowing we didn't have to tackle this mystery alone. We decided on a plan to investigate the house. When we settled on the idea, it felt as if we somehow took back a little bit of control. With determination, we committed to uncovering the truth, one step at a time. As we cruised past the house, it helped to have someone by my side to make it seem less strange. My friend made small observations, noticing the neatness of the flower beds and the new curtains. We laughed nervously, trying to maintain some normalcy during this odd situation. Having someone there eased my tension as I memorized what the place looked like. Every little detail mattered if we were to return. The house seemed ordinary with its drawn curtains and well-kept yard, but from experience, we knew appearances could be deceiving. As we drove by, we tried not to overthink things. Everything about the house screamed normal suburbia, Yet the tension in my gut told a different story. It was the calmness of the house that unsettled us, hinting at a mystery hidden just beneath the surface. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we decided that dusk was the best time to approach. With my friend by my side, I felt a courage that had been absent when I was alone. She offered me a confident smile, the kind that said, "We've got this." Our plan was simple: knock on their door and get some answers. Together we aimed to clear the doubts hanging over us. Finally, one evening, nerves steady but hearts pounding, we took our first step toward the unknown. As we approached the house, each footstep felt heavy with anticipation. My hand shook slightly as it reached for the doorbell, and I was grateful my friend was there with me. Her presence was a comforting anchor as we rang the bell, waiting for whatever or whoever would appear. The door opened to reveal John's mother. She looked at us with a slight nervousness, a hint of something unreadable in her eyes. "Hello," I said with a polite smile, keeping my introduction vague. She seemed unsure, almost as if trying to place me. Her reaction spoke volumes, sparking a flurry of questions within me. So many things left unsaid, hanging in the space between us. Trying to keep my voice steady, I asked her if John was living there now. Her response was different. Her eyes shifted slightly as she denied it. It felt like she avoided meeting my gaze, focusing anywhere but on me. Her hesitation was palpable, hinting at something more behind her words. It left me with unanswered questions, but I didn't want to press too hard. The awkward encounter only raised further suspicions. Her discomfort seemed to speak louder than the words she used. I exchanged polite, empty pleasantries before we stepped away, leaving the house behind. Once on the sidewalk, my mind buzzed with more questions than ever. The secrets, whatever she was hiding, sat heavily in the air, urging me to dig deeper into what was really going on. Walking away from the house, the meeting added more fire to my quest. It didn't answer any questions, but rather fueled my curiosity and determination. The walls of that home seemed to contain mysteries I was aching to uncover. I could feel it deep down. There was more hidden beneath the surface. This was just the beginning, and I was intent on finding out what was truly happening. Driving away from the meeting, my friend and I brainstormed our next moves. We needed to be smart in how we gathered the evidence. The mystery felt bigger than us, but we were committed. Patience would be our ally, and careful tactics our guide. Each plan seemed to lead to many more questions, but we knew we had to keep going and unravel this one piece at a time. Determined for answers, I went straight to the local authorities. I needed to find out more about John's case. With every step, I tried to gather my courage. Explaining my situation was nerve-wracking, especially since it involved sharing my suspicions, but I pushed through, laying out everything I'd seen and noticed, hoping they would offer details that could lead me somewhere I hadn't yet explored. The officers listened with polite interest, but their responses were more reserved than I'd hoped. They carefully took notes, nodding at the right parts. However, when I pushed for information, it felt like I hit a wall. Their words hinted at confidential matters that couldn't be shared, leaving me feeling like an outsider looking in. I realized I might need to find my own way forward. Their lack of answers only made me more curious. I left the police station with a head full of questions, feeling both intrigued and frustrated. The mystery felt more complex with each conversation, but this only made me more determined to dig deeper. Something important was being held back, and I couldn't let it go. The search was beginning to consume my every thought and action. Later, I decided to revisit the scene of John's crash. I needed to see if there was anything we'd overlooked before. Walking around the area, every inch seemed to hold a part of the past, demanding my attention. Each step felt heavy with memories, but I kept my focus on finding a clue that might have been missed in the initial frenzy of emotions and confusion. Though I combed through the area, hoping to meet someone with a story to share, my efforts felt pointless. No leads and no new directions revealed themselves. Despite the fruitlessness, I wasn't ready to give up. Hope continued to drive me, a constant whisper that something out there would eventually lead me to answers. I held on to that hope as I continued my quest. I realized a change in strategy was necessary. The clues I was after seemed to be on the edge of my reach, waiting for a different angle of attack. I was convinced the answers weren't far off. It was all about finding the right path or the perfect person who might have noticed something. This thought gave me a second wind, urging me to look beyond the obvious. More digging led me to Matt, an old friend of John's. Maybe he knew something that could give me the breakthrough I needed. I arranged to meet him downtown for coffee. The cafe, busy as always, provided the perfect cover for our conversation. It felt like getting closer, as if this meeting was the key to unlocking a new chapter in my search. We settled into our seats, and I slowly led our chat toward John. I laid out everything that had happened to me recently, hoping my story might jog a memory or uncover a connection. As I talked, I searched Matt's face for any sign of recognition, hoping he knew something that he hadn't shared with anyone else. Sharing all this felt like peeling away layers, hoping to reveal the truth beneath. Matt looked uncomfortable, shifting in his seat. Avoiding direct eye contact, he claimed ignorance about anything concerning the crash. His words seemed too practiced, like he'd thought about what to say if ever asked. This only deepened my suspicions. Whatever he knew, he'd decided not to share it then. His reluctance to open up confirmed that there was more beneath the surface, something I was determined to uncover. As our conversation unfolded, Matt's demeanor was far from reassuring. He seemed elusive, dodging my questions with vague answers. His unease only heightened my suspicions that he might know more than he was letting on. Despite my careful attempts to push for more details, he skillfully avoided giving any concrete information. The whole interaction left me with a feeling that there was something significant he was choosing to hide. Walking away from that cafe, I couldn't shake the feeling that Matt knew more than he admitted. His reaction was telling, the sidelong glances and nervous shifting clear indicators. Every instinct agreed that he held a valuable piece to this complex puzzle. Our conversation might not have given me direct answers, but it left me with a strong hunch that I needed to follow up on. Thinking about John's past, the idea of a secret life felt less impossible. With Matt's vague answers fueling my imagination, I thanked him, though his words hadn't been much help. Leaving the cafe, I was more determined than ever to find the truth. My next move needed careful planning. I felt a complex mix of fear and anticipation, knowing that each step brought me closer to solving the mystery. Determined to uncover more, I dug through various records. That's when I found something unexpected, a storage rental in John's name. Its presence was entirely new to me, hidden away all these years. This piece of information sparked a new line of inquiry. Could this rental hold answers? It was a lead that I couldn't ignore, promising further layers to a story I thought I knew. The address wasn't far, just on the outskirts of our town. I spent a moment gathering my courage before making the drive alone. Every mile seemed to add to the emotional weight already pressing on me. Reaching the storage facility, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. It was time to uncover what lay hidden inside, to see if it could answer any of my pressing questions. Upon arrival, my anticipation grew. The facility manager met me and helped unlock the door after verifying my identity. As the metal roll-up creaked open, revealing rows of dusty boxes, my heart pounded with every beat. Each box inside seemed to hold the promise of secrets just waiting to be discovered. This moment felt pivotal, a chance to finally piece together what had been so elusive. Inside, dusty boxes were piled high. Carefully and methodically, I began sifting through each one, tracing my hands over layers of dust. The entire scene felt surreal, like stepping back into a past I didn't fully recognize. Every box was a potential window into another side of John's life. I searched thoroughly, hoping each moment would uncover a clue that could finally illuminate the murky details I've been chasing. Among those boxes, I stumbled upon familiar items, pictures capturing happy moments and long-forgotten belongings. Beside them lay a box filled with unsorted paperwork and an unexpected small safe. These discoveries carried the weight of years gone by while promising potential answers. In piecing through them, I hoped for insights into John's disappearance, bringing clarity to the chaos that had seeped into my days. With effort, I managed to open the safe, revealing documents marked "Confidential" with John's name boldly printed. My eyes widened, hardly believing what I saw. This storage unit promised more hidden secrets just waiting to be uncovered. These papers were a solid lead, an opportunity to understand what had set this chain of events in motion. There seemed to be more layers to John's life than I'd ever known. The hours slipped by as I pored over the discovered documents. Each page was marked with coded names, mentions of agencies, and locations that meant little to me yet. I carefully analyzed every detail, determined to extract any piece of information. The more I read, the clearer it became that these documents were linked to something bigger. My determination persisted, knowing these papers might contain the key to unveiling the truth. Going over the documents, certain words kept jumping out at me. There were frequent mentions of places and dates I'd never heard of before. My mind raced with possible connections, wondering how these were part of John's past. Each word seemed like a tiny puzzle piece, forming a picture I didn't quite understand yet. What did it all mean? I felt more confused, but also more determined to find answers. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed help to make sense of these papers. Was John involved in something secretive or even dangerous? This was beyond my understanding, and I felt out of my depth. I began to think about who might be able to help without drawing too much attention. Someone who could read between the lines and help unravel this mystery. Calling my lawyer friend seemed like the best move. He was someone I trusted, and with his expertise, he could help go through these documents. When I called him, he listened patiently as I explained my situation. "I'll look into them," he said, agreeing to handle things quietly. This step felt reassuring, knowing I wasn't facing this complicated web alone anymore. My friend got back to me after some days, and he explained things in a way that finally made sense. His perspective opened my eyes to connections I hadn't seen before. "Be cautious," he advised, noting the seriousness of the situation. Hearing that made me realize the gravity of what might be lying beneath the surface. This was perhaps more than I'd expected when I started. His analysis showed there were signs of something hidden in John's past. It seemed my suspicions were right. There was more to his disappearance than I initially thought. We decided to dig deeper into the newly uncovered aspects, knowing caution was crucial. With his support, I felt more equipped to move forward, although the path felt more uncertain than ever. During a quick phone call, my friend shared a lead he'd found. It narrowed down to a secretive government project. This was something we hadn't considered before, and it prompted a new angle in our investigation. I jotted down all the details, knowing this could be the break we needed. It was a slim piece of hope we were ready to pursue, carefully planning our next steps. Understanding the need for discretion, we carefully extended our research. The aim was to uncover more without alerting anyone to our activities. It was like walking on a tightrope, requiring balance and caution. We hoped to unfold the truth without risking too many mistakes. Each piece we found helped make the picture a bit clearer, showing us more than we'd bargained for. As we pieced everything together, bits of John's life began to take shape. The possibility of governmental connections or protection started making sense. The further we dug, the more signs pointed that way. Though it wasn't clear yet how John fit into all of this, questions buzzed in our minds, but every clue brought us closer to solving the mystery, fueling our determination. It increasingly looked like John's disappearance wasn't just an accident. The deliberate nature of his actions came into clearer focus. My friend and I knew we had to move carefully, even as we uncovered more connections. Each step had to be taken with care. We were drawn deeper into this web of circumstances, all the while trying to protect our identities as best as we could. With each revelation, it became evident the secrets were more intricate than I'd ever imagined. Now, feeling faint shadows following me, my anxiety grew. Could someone be aware of my search, watching from afar? The thought sent a chill down my spine, keeping me more vigilant than ever. Knowing how much was at stake encouraged me to go on, despite the growing fear. Finding out the truth took both courage and careful planning. I knew each move needed precise thought. Every step I took felt like I was walking on eggshells, leading me closer to the answers I longed for. It required guts to dig deeper without knowing what I'd find. As I moved, I felt a mix of excitement and fear. Excited for what I might discover. Fearful of the unknown. Then one night, everything changed with a simple message. I discovered an unmarked letter in my mailbox. My hands shook as I opened it, wondering what secrets lay inside. Despite the late hour, I knew sleep wouldn't come until I read it. As I unfolded the letter, its contents pulled at the threads of a truth I had waited years to understand. The letter confirmed what I had begun to suspect. John wasn't gone. He had been placed in witness protection due to threats he faced. His death had been staged for his safety. The words on the page painted a picture clearer than anything I had hoped for. He wasn't lost forever. He had been hidden away, sheltered from threats, far from the life we once shared. This revelation left me torn, filled with feelings I couldn't easily sort. On one hand, everything seemed to make sense at last. On the other, my heart still ached from the years of emptiness. It was hard to process that John disappeared, to keep himself safe. My emotions wavered between relief knowing he was alive and sadness from all the time we spent apart. Despite the tales and the secrets, knowing he was actually safe brought a strange comfort to my heart. My world felt shifted. Everything once clear now looked different. However, I finally understood why he made those choices. Realizing the sacrifices he had to make offered a unique sense of closure to a story, shadowed by so much doubt and lingering questions. Now, understanding why John had to stay hidden, I accepted the loss I felt back then. Although my future remained uncertain, I felt a sense of brightness and hope within its ambiguity. Remaining anonymous carried its challenges, yet I captured a glimpse of something new beyond the loss. From John's departure to now, every part made sense, even if it left a mark on my heart. The reality of my life had shifted, intertwined with both pain and, strangely, peace. Though I couldn't reach out to John, knowing he was out there brought me a hint of solace. Life moved onward, and I found comfort in small moments, remembering all that we had shared. The journey of uncovering the truth, although painful, wrapped me in new layers of understanding and peace. I found comfort in piecing together what led to John's disappearance, unraveling a web I had been caught in for so long. Having clarity allowed me to release the strong grip the mystery had on my days. Knowing the reasons behind everything that once left me in the dark let me step forward, further than I ever thought possible. Peace finally began to come into my days. Separated by circumstances beyond our control, the love John and I shared was always real and truly treasured. I learned to appreciate each moment we had, remember our dreams, and hold on to them. Life opened up with new paths and possibilities. I found strength to embrace life anew, stepping forward with the knowledge that our bond, while altered, still existed deeply in my heart. Acceptance filled me with strength I hadn't known I possessed. Each day passed with renewed thanks, knowing wherever he was, John was safe. I lived with a heart touched by gratitude for every moment we once summered, for every saret unveiled. Time went on, but I walked with the knowledge that life carried a balance, a truth both painful and healing, yet unmistakably part of my journey.
You like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.